In this video you will see some of the toughest and most scandalous wrestling bouts of the 2000s in freestyle wrestling. In the selection, 3 bouts were not without violent moments, fights, and frankly unsportsmanlike behavior. These bouts shocked the audience and became one of the most discussed in the wrestling world. Get ready to see a real fight of wrestlers at the limit of their abilities. 1999, Krasnoyarsk hosts the 10th International Freestyle Wrestling Tournament in memory of two-time Olympic champion Ivan Yarygin. The tournament, as always, is held with pomp. However, one episode that took place during the final left a somewhat discouraging impression. The thing is that in the final, Krasnoyarsk Sajid Murtazaliyev was brought together by fate with the 1997 world champion from Dagestan Kurmagomedov, who in the course of the fight, having realized that the fight was not going well, was not going to admit his defeat just like that, demonstrating in front of the fully filled stands of the Palace of Sports almost all the arsenal of what is commonly called unsportsmanlike behavior. Kurmagomedov argued loudly with the referee, insulted him, and finally refused to go to the center of the mat to shake hands with his opponent. Kurmagomedov was naturally disqualified. However, what was the amazement of experts when, despite this punishment, Kurmagomedov was still awarded a silver medal. I suggest to remember the final bout in the weight up to 96 kilograms at the 2006 World Championship in Freestyle Wrestling, in which wrestler Kazimierz Getsalov essentially exchanged his knocked-out tooth for the gold of this tournament. Several years before that, when Kazimierz Getsalov was lighter in category, he was fatally unlucky. At the Russian Championships, he lost to Adam Saitiev or Sajid Sajidov, and when they went to the World Championships, he stayed at home. Now it's a completely different matter. Getsalov, having added weight, won the Olympic title in Athens. A year later, he added the title of world champion to it, and now he has defended this title. Kazimierz Getsalov's vis-a-vis in the final fight was his principal rival, former world champion from Georgia Georgy Gogshalidze. Principled by no means only because he is objectively strong. The thing is that for months ago, the duel of the same two fighters at the preliminary stage of the European Championship in Moscow was overshadowed by a very unpleasant incident. In impotent anger, hopelessly losing Gogshalidze's finger damaged Getsalov's eye. At this tournament, Gogshalidze distinguished himself again. In the middle of the first period, when the Georgian wrestler grabbed the opponent's head and had to perform some action within 10 or 15 seconds, for some reason the referee hesitated and did not interrupt the practically motionless grip for at least 30 seconds. The result of terrible pressure on the lower jaw was a tooth of the Russian wrestler fell out right on the carpet, and the score 0-1 was not in his favor. In the second period, everyone felt how furious Kazimierz Getsalov was. He turned on in a moment, and there was a real fight with total superiority Getsalov, who simply destroyed his opponent. Yes, so much so that when after the next 2 periods, won by Getsalov with scores of 1-0 and 4-0, the Georgian came off the mat, he was pumped out for 15 minutes by a medical team using ice and an oxygen pad. Let me remind you about the Russian Freestyle Wrestling Championship of 2007 that was remembered by a mass scuffle of fans on the mat after the final bout in the 84 kilograms weight category. The reasons for this scuffle rose during the preliminary bouts. In the 84 kilograms, Georgy Kadov from Ossetia and Zor Abdulmuslimov from Dagestan met in 1/8 of the final. Abdulmuslimov slapped his opponent in the face, Kadov hit his opponent with his fist and received a 1-point warning. Nevertheless, Kadov, an Ossetian, brought the fight to a 2-1 victory. The situation became extremely tense, and Kadov's final meeting with another Dagestani, Sajid Sajidov, made the conflict almost inevitable. After the second period of the bout, the score was 1-1, and the coaches of both Kadov and Sajidov were convinced that the judges were acting against his ward. The Dagestani coaches several times ran onto the mat, the Ossetian wrestlers seconds shouting their complaints from the seats. Several fans tried to break through to the place of the bout, but they managed to be pushed aside by the riot police. The climax was ahead. To determine a winner of the bout, the wrestlers were put into a cross fight, in which Kadov got the advantage by lot. He didn't manage to get the hold, but finally the wrestlers went off the mat and the judges decided that Sajidov was the first to leave the mat. The decisive point was given to Kadov, after which it was no longer possible to cope with the crowd, nor did the intercession of Sajidov himself, who tried to stop his own fans. The fans threw themselves at the referees and smashed the television camera and the computer on the referee's table. With great difficulty, the riot police managed to push the spectators away from the mat. The Wrestling Federation announced that the decision on the Kadov-Sajidov fight would be announced the next day. As for Kadov's fight with Sajidov, The federation had the only thing to do to call two athletes the champions of Russia at once. Thus, in the category 280 for kilograms, the strongest wrestler actually was not revealed.